Joining us to talk about this is Sanjay Kapoor, former CEO of Bharti Airtel, very well-known telecom expert. Hi, Sanjay. It's Nayantara. Good morning. Exciting times for Bharti Airtel, Reliance Jio, and of course, Vodafone Idea. The first question, I think, is when will they increase tariffs? Do you think it's going to be sooner than later, because the government's also getting set for a 5G auction? They can't possibly be looking at losing more money while competing with each other for new airwaves.
Good morning, Nayantara, and good morning to the viewers. Absolutely a pertinent question. And, if the question was when should the prices have been raised, I think the answer is yesterday. But given the situation of the industry and the government packages there, that the promoters have all expressed their happiness about what the government has done for them, I think they've left no ambiguity in the way they've responded to what the government did, so much so that Bharti's also said that they'll avail the moratorium that's been offered. So I think the government's done its bit. And what can the sector do? The sector, given the fact that there are two capital cycles, one right now, because we need to beef up the experience, especially after the pandemic shift of work from anywhere, and basically make sure that the network is good enough to offer education, offer entertainment, offer connectivity with your office workplace, and basically provide you a blemishless coverage all across the country, needs a lot of capital to be pumped in. And that's one capital cycle. The other capital cycle that's staring at you is the 5G capital cycle. And before you really invest into the spectrum, you have to invest into the infrastructure, build more towers, have a complete IP backbone, to have fiberized networks. And all that requires a lot of capital. Now, to have that capital, you need to raise capital and you need to raise prices. So prices is absolutely one of the two quintessential things that the operators have to do to help themselves. And I think, I've said this earlier, to me, the best poised to raise the prices in the market are Airtel and Jio. Airtel, because it has a fortification of its postpaid base and high-end customers. And therefore, I think there's little risk in raising prices for those segments. And for Jio, because they're the market leaders and they need to shift the game now from being price leaders to becoming experience leaders, and they can also take the lead. But I think for Voda, it is more a survival issue. Even if they lose out a few customers, which they have been in the past, I think raising prices is absolutely something that they need to do to make sure 4 years hence, when the moratorium ends, they are able to service their new investors and they are able to service the government interest rates for the moratorium. If they're not able to do it, they will face the same situation 4 years later, or even a worse one at that stage, when the government will also feel stifled to help them. So I think operators, to help themselves, have to take pricing decisions very quickly and very bold ones.
Sanjay, I think the markets would have also wanted the tariff hike, not yesterday, but day before yesterday, if not last week, right? But having said that, the other point that you raised, that Vodafone Idea would continue to be in a soup 4 years later if it doesn't act now. How do you see this moratorium panning out? Sunil Bharti Mittal's on record to say that Airtel will avail of the moratorium. A moratorium is a moratorium. It doesn't make the problem go away. So is Vodafone Idea indeed out of trouble, or is it just trouble that's being kicked down the road for 4 years later to be dealt with?
So, Nayantara, given the circumstances, what the government thought the best in their wisdom was to give them more time to take care of their business strategy, to come back in the market and be competitive. Now, the problems that they have in hand, VIL I'm talking about, are several. First, you have to keep in mind that they have almost 100 million plus 2G customers who have to be taken care of, who are a leaky bucket. And every now and then, either Airtel is nibbling at that or Jio is nibbling at that. And there's a jostling going on, for those customers. And therefore, it's a challenge for Voda unless and until they invest into their network, spruce up the network, and actually take a lead to convert their own customers into 4G. If they don't take that, move, they don't make that move, they will always be at the mercy of their competitors who will take advantage of their better coverage, better network. Now, the problem is that with all this happening, Voda still needs to borrow money. I mean, the government has given a moratorium, but their current EBITDAs are not going to take care of their capital requirements and their network requirements and their capital investments that are required. They have to service some of their debt instruments that are there. They have to rejuvenate their bank guarantees. They need a lot of capital. And then, like I said, 5G is staring at them. Is there an option for Voda to skip 5G? Theoretically, somebody could come and say, yes, they can skip because the third operator with such a weak balance sheet probably will not be able to monetize the investments in 5G because even the leading operators across the globe are still trying to figure out how to monetize 5G. But my own take is that they already have a poor perception compared to other two of their network. If they miss out the 5G, then their perception in the market will further weaken. And then the challenge is you cannot just hop, skip, and jump to 6G if you don't start building your network now for 5G, because 5G is a quantum leap from 4G. If you don't build your network, then to suddenly catch the train at 6G stage might be, a very utopian situation. And that's my take. So I think any which way you look at Voda, they need a lot more capital and they need to raise prices. And they need to raise prices like, yesterday or day before, like you said. And if they don't do it, this moratorium is only postponing the problem. It is not taking care of their sustenance and survival.
But Sanjay, the bigger question is how easy is it going to be for Vodafone Idea to raise capital from the markets? For Bharti and Jio, it's been a cakewalk so far with the recent rights issue of Bharti. But is it going to be as easy a task for Vodafone?
So of course not. The fact of the matter is that everybody knows what their financial situation is, and everybody knows that the company could have actually exited the market if it was not a bailout package from the government of India. But that package is only taking care of the cash flows. It is not taking care of either their P&L or their balance sheet. So that situation is going to become more aggrieved, if they are not able to correct the situation. Now, the situation that they face is that even an investor who comes, and invests into the company, he is going to come into the company with very onerous terms. And I'm also sure that the governance that such an investor will build up, will be so strong that Voda will really have to perform, and, if they don't perform, I'm sure the investors will build their options. For somebody to come and say, I'll turn my head the other way and let you operate the way you have been, and I trust you'll give my money back just because government has given you a moratorium. I think that'd be very difficult, for Voda Idea to imagine. So I think any investors who come in, there might be investors, because I've heard their management say that there's an investor or there might be multiple investors who might come in. And if that is true, then I think that investor will come at his own terms, and those terms will not be very easy.
Yeah. Also, the other thing, Sanjay, since you, view the industry globally as well, just wanted to understand what's going to be the cost of switching over from 4G to 5G, and is it going to come with a huge cost burden, not just for Vodafone Idea, but for the other two as well?
Yeah, I mean, this is really a $1 million question, probably $1 billion question. And, I have been deploying 5G with operators in other parts of the world. And, most of the monetization of 5G is a question mark. There were operators in US, operators in Southeast Asia, operators in GCC, who all thought that there'll be a premium for 5G, even for the customers to move on to a 5G network. But that didn't happen. In fact, today, all the operators across the globe are incentivizing customers to move from 4G to 5G, whether it's through devices or non-devices, but they are doing their bit to make sure more and more customers move on to 5G for a better experience. But is the customer paying too much extra for that 5G experience? Answer is no, for a simple reason. There are only 2 basic use cases that are being deployed all across the globe. One is EMBB, which is nothing but a faster mobile broadband. And then the second is a fixed wireless access, which means it gives you a limited mobility. That's how 4G started getting deployed in India. When we got the first six rollouts, when I was with Airtel, and it was more of a fixed wireless access. And so those are the two applications. And for those applications, the customer is not willing to pay extra. Now, really coming here and seeing what will it cost in India. I don't know what will happen to the reserve prices of the spectrum, but the last heard reserve prices, and you need 100 megs of spectrum to do 5G. It's simply because if you have to do faster speed, you have to do lower latency, and you have to do Internet of Things, then you need to splice and split the spectrum, and you need 100 megs. And that's how it gets auctioned in most parts of the world. And if operators in India get 100 megs of spectrum, 50,000 crores of the last heard reserve prices, even if it was not to be bid any further, that's the basic cost. Then the number of towers. And, I don't want to get into that debate with the operators, but look at China. China is talking about 3 million, 4 million 5G sites, going ahead. Fine. India has 200,000. But if you want to do applications like low latency makes no sense with dark spots. You have to really cover the entire network to take advantage of low latency. And same with Internet of Things. If you have to have IoT, then IoT will be stationed anywhere in the city, indoors, outdoors, and you need to provide coverage. If you don't have coverage, you don't have latency, you don't have high speed, those applications are dead. They make no sense. So I think India may not go up to 3 million sites, 4 million sites, but I clearly feel that India will have to go up 2-3 times of their current sites if they want to give meaningful 5G coverage, and then build an IP network, then have fiberized backhaul. All that costs a lot of money. Today, intercity fiber is there, but intra-city fiber is not all pervasive. Jio is ahead of others. Airtel lags, and then probably, Voda is the last. And we have to invest. So it is an ongoing investment. Will the 100 megs of spectrum suffice for life? Answer is no, right? And the problem is that when you bid for spectrum, you bid for the whole state. You might be utilizing 5G only in big cities to begin with, but you'll have to pay for the whole state, right? Similarly, you bid Pan India will have to pay for the Pan India. So it is a very expensive proposition. And given what the world has experienced, and devices are still very expensive, ecosystems still formulating, and it's good for the tower companies, it's good for fiber and infrastructure, but for operators to monetize, I think the jury is still out.
Interesting. Sanjay, always great having you on the show and getting in all your insight on the telecom industry.